Good morning, students. Let's continue with the same story that we were doing yesterday. I hope you must have read it once at least so that you'll have an idea about what the storyline is. It is important, and please understand this is one of the most important stories of your syllabus. So let's continue. I hope you remember, you know, that Joe Thompson was the one who carried Maggie back to his place. Now, Jane Thompson, maybe she was a bad tempered woman, but there was some tenderness in her heart, right? So, let's see what happens after that. We'll continue from page number 85. I hope you remember that they were having supper, and that is where Mrs. Jane Thompson, she interrupts and she says, "What are you going to do with that child?" "I thought you understood me, that she was to go to the poorhouse," replied Joe, as if surprised at her question. Now, Jane Thompson was actually, she really wanted to know what Joe is going to do with the child, and he really wanted the confirmation that, okay, yes, he is taking the child to the poorhouse. And I hope you remember what is a poorhouse. Poorhouse is a place where they keep children. It's a kind of an orphanage, right? So here Joe is acting as if he's surprised and he says, "Oh, I thought you already know what I'll be doing with the child," right? And this Jane Thompson, she still wants a kind of a confirmation from her husband. And that is why it is becoming difficult for her to accept the fact that he will take her away. She's actually not trusting him, maybe. Or maybe there is a feeling in her heart which says that even she is not willing to send the child away. So let's do it. Mrs. Thompson looked rather strangely at her husband for sonic moments. For a few moments, she actually looked at him with surprise, like, "What? Seriously?" And then dropped her eyes. And then she ignored her look. She ignored him. The subject was not again referred to during the meal. And during the food now, throughout the meal, they didn't refer the subject. Subject was Maggie here. So they were not at all interested in talking about Maggie anymore at that moment. At its close, Mrs. Thompson toasted a slice of bread and softened it with milk and butter, added to this a cup of tea. She took them into Maggie and held a small waiter. Now here small waiter means a tray, right? We usually call it a tray, on which she had placed them, while the hungry child ate with every sign of pleasure. So she took some food for the little girl on a tray, and when she must have taken it, the child, she enjoyed it. She ate the food with every sign of pleasure. Means she was enjoying it, she was loving it, right? So just imagine, she must have been hungry. "Is it good?" asked Mrs. Thompson, seeing with what a keen relish the food was taken. So she saw that the way this child was eating, so she confirmed, "Is it good?" The child paused with a cup in her hand and answered with a look of gratitude. So this child, she took a pause, she actually paused, she looked up, and there was gratitude on her face. Gratitude means being thankful. So she was thankful that at least somebody is providing me with food, right? So there was this kind of a satisfaction on her face. Then it says here that awoke to new life. So the way she must have looked at Jane, suddenly there was a kind of a change in her heart. Like old human feelings which had been slumbering in her heart for a half a score of years. Means, for a long time, these feelings, these human feelings were dead in Jane Thompson's life. They were not there. And the moment she saw the, gratitude on this girl's face, the child eating food, all those feelings, they became alive again. The motherly feelings, right? When you really feel and when you really know that your child is enjoying food, is actually appreciating you, is satisfied with the food. And they have been slumbering in her heart means they have been dead in her heart for half a score of years, means for 20 years. We'll keep her a day or two longer. So she must have, she must have thought, no, we are not giving this little child away so easily. So she went back to Joe Thompson and told him what she said. We'll keep her a day or two longer. She's so weak and helpless, said Mrs. Joe Thompson. In answer to her husband's remark at breakfast time on the next morning that he must step down and see the guardians of the poor, but about Maggie. Now maybe the next day during the breakfast, Joe Thompson must have told his wife that, see, I should go and see the guardians of the poor house. But at that same moment, he saw a change. His wife, Jane, she refused. She said, give her a day or two. She needs to eat something. She's so weak, right? She'll be so much in your way, said Joe. Now Joe is acting smart here. He says, oh, I can leave her here, but she'll be, in your way. You won't be able to work. I shan't mind that for a day or two, poor thing. So his wife says here that, I'll not mind it for a day or two. She's a poor girl, right? Joe did not see the guardians of the poor on that day. So Joe, he ignored, he never went to them on the next day nor on the day following. So he never went to see the guardians of the poor house. In fact, he never saw them at all on Maggie's account. And there's a reason why he never went there, for in less than a week, Mrs. Joe Thompson would as soon leave thought of taking up her own abode in the almshouse as sending Maggie there. So very soon what happened? Mrs. Jane Thompson, she even gave up the thought of sending Maggie to the poor house, right? What light and blessing. Turn it to page 86, please. We were on 85 and now we are on 86, right? What light and blessing did that sick and helpless child bring to the home of Joe Thompson? The poor wheelwright. Okay, now this child was sick and helpless. But this poor child, she actually brought happiness and light to the life of Joe Thompson. Please understand, they were childless. That's one of the biggest reasons why they were so much self-involved, or maybe they were ill-tempered. Maybe Jane Thompson was sore, vinegar-tempered, Why? Because she was childless. She has nothing else to do. And now the moment she got a child, all her sore feelings were out of her way. It has been dark. You can underline these lines, they're very important. It has been dark and cold and miserable there for a long time. Where we are talking about Joe Thompson's house. It had been dark and cold and miserable for a very long time, right? Just because his wife had nothing to love and care. Why? Because his wife has nothing, no one there, no child to love and to care for. Out of herself, except for her own self, and so she became so irritable, ill-tempered, and self-afflicting in the desolation of a woman's nature. So this is how she changed. She had nothing else to do, no one to love to, no one to care to, and finally she turned into a bad temple woman, right? There were the feelings of tenderness, there were the motherly feelings, but they had been dead for a very long time. Now, the sweetness of that sick child, looking ever to her in love, patience, and gratitude, was as honey to her soul. Now, when this child, she saw this child, this sick child, her sweetness and her love and patience and gratitude completely changed Jane Thompson, right? It was a kind of honey to her soul, like it was a kind of a satisfaction looking at that child, taking care of that child, loving that child, right? And she carried her in her heart as well as in her arms. So Jane Thompson, she would carry her not only in her hands but also in her heart forever. A precious burden, and she also considered Maggie as a precious burden. As for Joe Thompson, there was not a man in all the neighborhood who drank daily of a more precious wine of life than he. So he was so lucky that he would, he had a wife, he had a beautiful girl, and it seemed as if he's the one who was lucky enough and he was drinking the best wine of life as compared to others. An angel had come into his house, disguised as a sick, helpless, and miserable child. So there was darkness in his house, there was no love, nothing, no feelings. And now this girl, she had come as an angel into his life. So she was a kind of an angel, So let's see. And filled all its dreary chambers with the sunshine of love. And she's the poor child who actually came into their lives and filled their house with sunshine, with love, and with care. So that's the end of our chapter. I hope you're reading it. See, it's not that long, but yeah, of course, it's a long chapter, and I want you all to read it. Read it as much as you can. Right? It is important. And once we finish it, I'll be sending you the question and answers of this chapter. Please try solving the question and answers given in the workbooks as well. I have it here with me too, so please do let me know. And after this story, we have completed the poetry part. We've completed one story. We have another beautiful story coming up, A Horse and Two Goats. It's a long story, but it's a kind of a comedy and you will love it. It is, written by an Indian writer, Indian author, R.K. Narayan. And of course, he's known for his comedy shows as well. So you will love it. It's a nice story. The story is about a man from South India. He's Tamil and he knows nothing about English and he encounters a foreigner. Now there's this miscommunication going on between these two people and it is fun to watch. I don't know, last year, some of our seniors, they even performed on it. I don't know whether you must have watched it, but it was a beautiful play. So if you have your books, please turn it to page number 51. I'll just give the introduction today and we'll start with the chapter in the next video. Just open it to page 51. Right, I'm sure you have your stories book with you. Please open it. See, R.K. Narayan was an Indian writer who is best remembered for his stories set in the fictional South Indian town of Malgudi. Now, this person, he is only known for his fictional characters. Fictional, you understand, were not real. So they're fictional characters. And of course, fictional South Indian town of Malgudi. Narayan's style is simple, easy, and unpretentious, and his stories explore with humor and compassion for the everyday life of ordinary people. Now, understand, it is about the ordinary people of our country. Here, R.K. Narayan, he loves writing about everyday life. So maybe this is a long story, but this story is beautifully made and it is actually for the for not for but of course about our everyday life, especially the life of ordinary people. The following is an edited version of his short story, A Horse and Two Goats. So this is an edited version, right, of his short story, A Horse and Two Goats. In it, Narayan describes what happens when an English-speaking American meets an illiterate South Indian villager who knows only Tamil and has never stepped outside his village. Right? You understood that? So there will be a kind of a comedy between these two. The foreigner with his English is baffled by the incomprehensible and bizarre behavior of Muni, while Muni is equally mystified by the American's strange words and antics. Now they both are amazed by each other. The American is surprised that how come Muni knows nothing about English, and he loves his Tamil. And this person here, Muni, he is actually attracted by the English words and he's just trying to figure it out, what he's trying to say. He's actually stuck there, right? Using the simplest of settings, Narayan has crafted a sensible yet amusing, rich in situational comedy. So it's a beautiful, beautiful chapter, and there's not too much of it. But yes, of course, it's a long story. I'll do one thing. I'll be writing the important key points here and in the sequence so that you remember them in the same manner. So when you see the first point, you'll understand, okay, this is that part of the story where this happens. So you'll get a kind of a frame to work on, right? So that is it. I'll start with this chapter in the next video. Right, please do complete your work. Keep your, okay, class 9th, I'm sorry. I want you to keep your registers ready and keep them safe. We'll be using the same registers in class 10. And class 10th, please revise your work. Revise everything that we've done. Right, see, I've started with these stories and you can always watch my videos and learn more. Right? And if you have doubts, please do let me know. Okay then, thank you.